Hello everybody, welcome to Module 2 Excel example. Uh, in this module I want to introduce a company, let's say a gym that has a business in 3 different states. Let's say there's a gym that sells membership in 2 years, 2021 and 2022. So 2 different years. We have data on the year, month, state sales and cost for this company, and it's a gym, for example, that sells membership and something like that. So we gather data on 5 different variables. We have 5 different columns: A, B, C, D, and E. So in Excel, we usually show each variable as a column, and we show each observation like at a row. Usually the first row is devoted to the column's name or heading, and then from row 2 to the last one is our actual data. Now in Excel we refer to each cell so each cell is cross-section or intersection of a column and a row. So for example, right now this one cell D2 is cross-section, is intersection of column D and row 2. So we call it cell D2. It has the value of 576. Another example for cell, let's say F6, it has value 295. Can you tell me the value for cell C4? Yes, it's WI. The value for cell, let's say B1, it's the word month. Now, these 5 variables that we have, 3 of these variables are numerical: year, sales, and cost, and 2 of them are strings like month and state. The string variables that here are columns B and C, they are left aligned. They start from left. And the columns that they are numeric, they are right aligned. Yes. So 576, 490, they're all toward the right side of this column. Make sure that you have the latest version of Excel, which is like the version we are using is Microsoft. It comes from Microsoft 360. If we want to, for example, uh, change the width of a column, yes, then there are different ways. One way is that you can go here on the line that separates these 2 columns, and then drag it. So left click and drag it. Another one that you can automatically adjust the size of each column is by double clicking. Again, look at the cursor right now. It's like a downward black arrow. When I bring it to here between 2 columns, it becomes like this arrow. Now, if you double click on that, Excel automatically adjusts the size of each column. Yes. With that being said, let's see what we want to do here. First of all, we want to create a column called profit. So I'm going to go to cell F1 and I'm going to just simply type the word profit. Profit. And then I want to calculate the value of profit for these companies. From economics, we know that profit is defined as sales minus cost. So how can I create this? So one way is to calculate them row by row. 576 minus 490, 490 is 86. Then this one. 293 minus 279 is like 14. So I'm going to just type 14. But this is really cumbersome and it isn't worth it. What if rather than like right here we have 72 observations from row 2 to row 73. But what if rather than 72 observations we have 72,000 or 72 million observations? We don't want to do it row by row or observation by observation. So we can do something else rather than this. So if you want to go back and erase what you did, you can do Control Z. So what if I just type, for example, equal, for example, sales minus cost. Let me see if anything happens. Nothing happened. It just typed it for me. So I don't want that. But we can do something else. I can put an equal sign and then, for example, somehow mention I want cell D2 minus cell E2 and then hit enter. Oop. As you can see, Excel calculated that for us. We didn't have to do this. So I can either do this or, so I go back with Control Z, erase what we have, or I can just type equal sign. So the equal sign is absolutely crucial. You must put the equal sign. And then put the equal sign and then click on sales and then minus, click on cell. So I click on cell D2. Excel typed D2 for me. Then I put minus and then I click on cell E2. As soon as I click on this cell, Excel types E2 for me. So now I have this. But now again, I have that problem. So I calculated that like automatically for one cell. But how about the rest of the cells? There are two different ways that you can extend this calculation to other cells of this column. One, go to this point. This point, as you can see, like the bottom right of this cell, you see this small, very small, like a black, a green, like a square as here. It's called a filler point. So you can bring the mouse on the filler point and look at the change it makes. Look at the cursor right now. Big white positive, I go there, it's a small positive, and I can drag it down. That's one way. However, there's easier way. Rather than doing so, and all the calculation is correct, yes, but rather than doing so, I can do this. I can, again, you're gonna do the first line, so just we said D2 equals D2 minus E2. For the rest of the cells, we can do different things. One way is to double click on the filler points. Double click on it and it calculates profit for every single cell. Now that was profit. Then let's talk about something else called profit margin. Profit margin, again in economics, defined as 100 times profit divided by sales. So I go back here and I double click on this so it makes it like smaller. So profit margin again 100 times sales. So I'm going to type equal sign and then 100 and then times and then so 100 times and then I multiply that by profits, which is cell F2, and then divide it by sales, which is D2. Yes, or I click on this. So I got the profit margin as 14.93. Now again, I want to calculate this profit margin for all the rows. How can I do that? Again, you have two different ways to do so. Either go there and then drag it down, or double click on the filler points. Here we go. As you can see, for some states and some special months of a year, profit was negative. Therefore, profit margin was also negative at that specific time. Now that we are a little bit familiar, let's do some different things that we are really interested in doing. So one of them is the task that we have is to calculate all of these stuff. Total sales sum. So I'm gonna delete all the question marks because I want to put the answers here. So I'm gonna delete all of these. And then right now I don't think about alternative ways. Just one way right now is good for me. So I want total sales sum. Here we have to use something called Excel functions. One function is sum. So first of all, when you are doing whenever you select some cells, like let's say right here, Excel gives us three values: average, count, and sum. So these are super important like statistics that you want to get really familiar with: sum, average, and count. Now, I want to calculate this total sum sales. I'm going to use a specific function in Excel called sum. So I click on it and I just type sum and I open the parentheses. Yes, and then the range that I'm interested. So the range that I'm interested is this. So I'm interested in total sale. I can just click on this cell and then select it. Yes. Excel types D2 to D73. Or I could just type it. Again, it doesn't matter whatsoever. I could just type equals sum, open parentheses, D2 to D73. And close the parentheses. Just remember, whenever you open a parenthesis, you must close the parentheses. And I can see the result is 35,737. Great, fantastic. So now that we calculated the total sum sales, in many cases we have like some conditions. For example, right here we are asked about sum of sales in 2021. So how can we do this sum of sales in 2021? So we have a condition. For that we have to use another function. This function is called SUMIFS. So you're going to start typing equals, and then this time rather than sum, we are going to do SUMIFS. So I'm going to just type equals SUMIFS. And now, how can I do this? So I've written the syntax right here. First, you're going to say, you're going to tell Excel what's the sum range. So the sum range would be exactly like above. It's going to be column sales, which is column D, from cell D2 to cell D73. And now that we are done telling Excel the sum range, we put a comma, and can you notice this? As I type here, Excel gives me this like yellow note that it helps me to understand where am I, and it helps me to understand like what I'm supposed to insert here. So I'm done with the sum range, so I'm going to put a comma. As soon as I put a comma, you see now criteria range 1 is bold. So we have sum range. So SUMIFS, first of all, we use it when we want to calculate the sum of a column something, but we have some, let's say, conditions or like criteria. So what's the criteria here? Criteria is that only year 2021. So we are not interested in year 2022. Only we are interested in 2021. So how can we do this? Criteria range 1. Criteria range 1 is going to be on year. So what column shows us the year? Yes, it's column A. correct. Since that's column A, I'm gonna just type A2 column A73. And then I put a comma again, yes. I put a comma. That means I'm done with telling Excel the criteria. Then criteria 1. So the criteria 1 is 2021. And then I close the parentheses. Remember this is a general rule, not only in Excel, in Python, in R, even using calculator, even doing math or statistics with pen on a paper. You gotta, like, whenever you open a parenthesis, you have to close the parenthesis. So the number of parentheses opened must be equal to the number of parentheses closed. And then just hit enter and you get the answer 16,971. It is possible to have two conditions or even three conditions. Now let's do another example that we have two conditions. In this example, we are interested in sum in January 2021. So I'm going to do this equals SUMIFS, open the parentheses, and then so sum range. What is sum range? Like exactly before, D2 to D73. And then now criteria range 1. So let's say the first criteria is like, again on year. So year was column A. So I'm going to type A2 to column A73. And then the year that I'm interested, 2021. So far it's exactly like the cell K5 that we had this, yes? However, we have one more criteria here. The other criteria is on month, which is only January. Now, I gotta put a comma here. As soon as I put a comma, this one gets like bold. Criteria range 2. So criteria range 2 is on month. What column gives me the month? Column B. So I'm gonna type B2 to B73 as criteria range. Now criteria 2. So what if I just type January and I close the parentheses? Yes. January, and then I put, oops, parentheses, and I do this. Oops, I got 0. Obviously, the answer is not 0. What was the problem? The problem is that I just mentioned January, and January is string, but I didn't put it in quotation mark. You must, whenever you have a string, you must enclose them in quotation marks, like this. And then hit enter, you get 12.4. Nice. Now a few questions. Is Excel case sensitive? What if rather January with capital letter J, I just write lowercase a, J, and A and N? Still got the same thing. Or if I use like all of them are uppercase, or like two of them, let's say uppercase, the third one lowercase, still got it. So Excel is not case sensitive. Question number 3. What if rather than double quotation mark, I use single quotation mark? Let's see what's gonna happen. So I'm gonna just use single quotation mark and we'll see in a second. I got an error. That means Excel doesn't accept that. So let's switch back to double quotation mark and hit enter and we're done. Next question is sum in 2021 only when sales is greater than 500. Now here I'm gonna start with just typing equals SUMIFS and then open the parentheses and then again sum range. So sum range would be from D2 to D73 and then criteria range 1, 2021, year A2, A73, and then criteria 1, which is 2021. Now I have one more thing. When sales is greater than 500, so what column? So it could be like when cost is greater than 500, when I don't know, profit is greater than blah blah. But this one is criteria is on sales. So here it's gonna be D2 to D73. So criteria is on the same column that sum range is. It can be like that or it can be another column. So essentially, if the question was that when cost is greater than 500, then I had to mention E2 to A73. And then I want to say it's greater than 500, yes. And close the parentheses and hit enter. I am getting an error. What's the error? I forgot to put the equal sign. So when the first character is an equal or minus or plus or something like greater, special character. Whenever you have a special character, that should be treated as a string. So since the whole thing here greater than 500 is string, I'm going to put that in quotation mark and hit enter. And I got the answer, 9160. So the true answer is this. Nice, nicely done. We are now done with the examples we had for SUMIFS. Let's move on to the next one. AVERAGEIFS. The syntax for AVERAGEIFS is exactly like the syntax for SUMIFS. So we are going to start with average range, criteria range 1, criteria 1, and so on and so forth. Yes, very, very similar to each other. Now I'm going to delete all of these and then answer them in the appropriate place. Number 1, total average. Again, all of these questions are about sum, yes? About sales, total sales average. So I'm gonna total sales average, sales column D, I'm gonna type. So the keyword here is average. I'm gonna type equals to average, and then I'm gonna type, let's say, D2 to column D73, and it's gonna give us the answer 496.34. That's the average that we got, yes. And then next one is a little bit different. Average in January 2021. So we have a condition here. Now that we have a condition, it's going to be a little bit different. It's again like before, like you remember some, we had like let's say some and then we had like SUMIFS when we had a condition. Here we have a condition. So rather than average if we're going to use another function, and as you guessed it, it's average ifs. How can we do that? It's exactly like SUMIFS. Let's try that one. So it's going to be equals average ifs. I'm going to start typing. And then as you type, Excel offers you some function. So average, average A, average if, average X. You can just double click on this and Excel is going to type the rest for you. So you have average ifs. Now again, this guideline or notes is right here in my disposal. And I know right now I'm supposed to give Excel the average range. So it's going to be D2 to D73. Put a comma and then criteria range 1. Criteria range, the criteria is again on year. So it's going to be A2 to A73. And then criteria 1 is that is 2021. And into 471. Again, the reason that I have always up to 73 obviously is that the last observation is row 73. Yes, as we can see it right here, 73. So all of our data points are between row, let's say 2 to row 73. Row, let's say 1 was just column names, and then the rest of them. Okay, now that we are done with this one, average in January 2021. So as you can imagine, this is exactly like SUMIFS that we have right here for January 2021. But rather than just SUMIFS, it's going to be average ifs. That would be the only difference. Yes. Let's try the average ifs and let's see. But essentially, just remember this this one is going to be exactly like this. Now I'm going to just start typing equals average ifs. Again, remember you can double click on the function. And so the first thing is the average range. Average range is on sale, so it's going to be D2 to D73 colon, and then the year is January is 2021, so A2 colon A73, and then the year that we are interested is 2021. And then next one is, let's say the next criteria is on January, the month. Yes, so the month we can do this. We can do month is column B, so I'm going to type B2 column B73, and then the month that I'm interested in, quotation mark, January, and hit enter. 408. So this is the answer, equals average ifs D2 to D73 average range, and then criteria range 1, criteria range 2, criteria 2. Next one, average in 2021 only when sales is greater than 500. So again, you're going to type average ifs and then open the parentheses. And again, exactly like the example that we had for this for SUMIFS. So I'm going to type this. Average range would be, let's say, average in 2021. So I'm going to write D2 to D73. Condition 1 is on year. So year is A2 to A73. The year we are interested, 2021. And then only when sales is greater than 500. So I can say D2 to D73, and then when sale is greater than 500. And hit enter, and we get 572.5. Next question consists of 3 parts. What state has the highest average profit margin in 2021? For this, we have to calculate the average profit margin for the 3 different states, Illinois, Indiana, and Wisconsin. Take a look at them, and then let's see which one is the maximum. So here I'm going to just start typing equals and average profit margin. So I'm going to type average ifs, open the parentheses, and then we are gonna focus on this D2 to D73, and then criteria range 1. That's gonna be, let's say, on year, A2 to A73, and then 2021. And then next one is criteria on states, state Illinois. Now what column shows states? It's going to be column C, yes. And if you forget that, just always you can go back and see, okay, column C is state, good. And then come back to your formula, yes. So we are right here. Okay, so next criteria that we have is on state, so C2 to C73, and then the state that we are interested here is IL. And close the parentheses. For 593. So this is the formula, yes. Now, for Indiana and Wisconsin, you can type it out. Another way that you can handle this is because just copy the formula, not just the answer, but the formula, hit enter, and then paste the formula right here. But rather than Illinois, go back to the formula, change it from Illinois to Indiana, and hit enter. And then from Wisconsin, do the same thing. Go back to the formula and then change Illinois to Wisconsin. Why can we do this? Because everything is the same. Average profit. Oh, I made a mistake. Did you catch my mistake or not? In all 3 of them, I made a mistake. Here, in all of the questions, I work with sales. This one is not sales, profit margin. So it's always happens to make a mistake, just go back and fix it. So profit margin is what column? Profit margin is column G. So let's go to the formula and then change this G, D to G, and then change this D to G as well, and hit enter. That's 25%. So profit margin essentially means out of $1 sales, how much of that was profit. So I'm going to delete this one, and I'm going to delete this one, and then I'm going to go back to this cell and type it out, and then change Illinois to Indiana. And then change here Illinois to Wisconsin. So the mistake I did, I calculated average sales for Illinois, average sales for Indiana, average sales for Wisconsin in year 2021. But you gotta, if you are interested in average profit margin, you gotta say G2 to G73. Out of these three steps, which one has the highest number? Illinois. I'm gonna go back to this cell and I'm gonna just type IL. Next topic that we have is about counts. Yes, let's do count as well. Count is super important too. Now, total counts. Okay, let me get rid of this question marks and that. For counts, it's a little bit different. So each of these things that we have in parentheses, and they are separated by commas, they're called inputs. The minimum number of inputs necessary for COUNTIFS function is 2. However, for average ifs, the minimum is 3. Or for SUMIFS, the minimum number of inputs is 3. Sum range, criteria range 1, criteria 1. And it can be 3 or 5 or 7, like something like that. But counts, it's just 2. So I want to count, like how many rows we have. I know the answer. The answer will be 72. However, I want to use the count function. I'm going to just type equals count. The question that comes to mind is that which column should I use? A, B, C, D, or E? So let's try E. Let's say E2 to A73, A2 to A73, and hit enter. 72 was the answer, yes. What if I use another column? Yes, like column, let's say C, which was states. Can I do that? It gives me 0. Oh, what's the problem? I just changed A to C. So I don't know the problem. It must be something relevant to the type of the columns. So when I go back to my data, I see column A is numerical, like numbers. But column B and C, they are strings. So for count function, I'm just talking about count, not COUNTIFS, nothing else. It's for count function. I must use a numeric column. So it can be column A, column, I don't know, D, which is sales, column E, which is cost. Let's stick to, let's say, A. But if we try D, that's going to be the same thing. 72 numbers. I already knew that. Now we have conditional count, like count in 2021. So how does that work? When you have condition, you're going to start from criteria range 1, criteria 1. So the function you want to use is right now is COUNTIFS. So I'm going to just type COUNTIFS, open the parentheses, and then start typing. Criteria range 1 is just year. So year is column A. So I'm going to just type A2 to A73. And then criteria that we have is year, which is 2021. And I close the parentheses, I hit enter, I get 36. You can have more than one criteria, more than one condition. Right now, next example has 2 conditions. Count in January 2021. So I'm going to just type equals COUNTIFS. Open the parentheses. Now I have 2 criteria. One of them is like exactly like before. It's year. So I'm going to just type A2 to A73 and then the year that I'm interested. Oops, you must mention A2 to A73 right now. But then January 2021, so 2021. And then next one is going to be on month. Month is what column? It's column B. So I'm going to just type B2 to B73. And then criteria is January. So I'm going to just have January in quotation marks and hit enter. 3. You have only 3. One for Illinois, one for Wisconsin, one for Indiana, and one for Wisconsin. The last example is count in 2021 only when sales is greater than 500. So again, we are going to rely on COUNTIFS. And again, you can always double click on the function. Now counts in 2021. So I'm going to just start typing A2 to A73 and then 2021. Only when sales is greater than 500, yes. So here I'm going to just do this. When D2 to D73 is greater than 500. Count ifs A2 to A73 2021, D2 to D73 greater than 500. Hit enter, we get 16. Nice. Okay, now that we are done with these questions, there's one more way to do all of these. It's a little bit easier. Now, essentially, like for the first one, we just type equals sum D2 to D73. So we started with the equal sign, we mentioned the name of the function, open the parentheses, specified the range, which was from D2 to D73. Now, rather than that, we don't actually have to do all of this. We can just say something like this. So before doing that, when I click on this, double click on this, look what happens here. So the range D2 to D73 got selected. Yes. Now, let's get back to business. Other way is to type equals sum, open the parentheses, and then just, you don't have to mention the row names when you want to pick the whole column. So you can just say D colon D, something like that. Equals sum D colon D, and you're good to go. You click, you get 35,737. Now, if I double click on this and I look at this, now I see the whole column C, D, even cells D1 and cells below that, they are all selected. You go down to the cell 1 millionth, row 1 millionth, that's also selected. So when you're using this one, when you don't mention the row numbers, the whole column and everything in it would be selected. So use this one only and only when after the last lane, after the last, let's say right here, line, after the last line, which is line 73 here, there is no data. If there are some data like right here below, when you're done with data, then you can't use this. For example, if we have had some numbers like on cell 82, no, this method wouldn't work. So essentially this one is exactly this one, like this column alternatively is exactly like the column answers, but you don't have to mention the row names. So it's a good practice to do all of it again. I'm going to start doing this. Equals SUMIFS mention them, open the parentheses. So condition is on year, the range is D, so say D colon D, comma, condition is on year, A colon A, and then 2021. A little bit easier and shorter. Next one, we have two criteria, no problem, equals SUMIFS. Open the parentheses, range would be D to D, or D colon D. Criteria 1 is on year, so A colon A, and year is 2021. Criteria 2 is on month, so it's going to be B colon B, and then in quotation mark January 1224. Next one equals SUMIFS, open the parentheses, B colon D, comma, then year is 2021, so A colon A, 2021, and then only when sales is greater than, so D colon D, and then greater than 500, so greater than 500, 9,160. So you can see it's a little bit easier and shorter. Yes, let's do the same thing for average. Again, you don't have to mention row names when there is nothing beneath the last row, which is usually the case. After last row, below the last row, we don't have anything. So usually you can use this method. But again, remember, when you do this, the whole column will be selected, even observations after last observation, like row 1,000, 100,000, they're all selected. But let's do this, equals average, average, and then D colon D. Next one, conditional average equals average ifs, and then average ifs would be right here, let's say D colon D, and then condition is on year, so A colon A and 2021. Next one, average in January 2021, so I'm going to type equals average ifs, open the parentheses, and then D colon D, and then January 2021, so that's going to be number 1, A colon A, and 2021, and then months would be column B, and then January. So yes, 408. Average in 2021 when sales is greater than 500. So it's going to be equals average ifs, open the parentheses, D colon D, year, A colon A, condition 2021. Next one is condition on sales. So I'm going to say D colon D. And the condition is that it's greater than 500. And I get the same results. Next one, average profit margin for Illinois. Again, equals average ifs, then average range is on D. Oops, profit margin, I always make this mistake, G, colon G, and then criteria number 1 is on year, and then year itself is 2021, and then state, which is C, not B, B was month, and then state is Illinois, and hit enter. I'll get back to this. Again, you can do this 3 times, or you can copy and paste this. I'm just lazy, and I do this. I paste it and I just change L to N, and then right here I paste it and I change IL to WI, and boom. And then again I'm gonna type in right here. Can we do the same thing with count? Absolutely. So I'm going to just use, let's say, equals count, and then A colon A 72. So again, exactly like this, but row names or row numbers are not specified. Next one, equals COUNTIFS, and then open the parentheses, criteria range 1, count in 2021. So that's A column A, and the criteria that you have 2021 and 36. Next one is count in January 2021. So it's going to be equals, now we have two conditions. So again, count ifs, in the parentheses, criteria range 1, so in year A column A, and then 2021. And then next one is on month. So B colon B, and then let's say January. Three. Last one. So count ifs, open the parentheses. Criteria 1 is on year, so A colon A, and then year would be 2021. And then criteria range 2 is on, let's say, year. So since one, so when sales is greater than 500, it's going to be D colon D, and then in quotation mark, greater than 500. So this is this, and hit enter, 16. Perfect. So this was what we had in module 1. Please, whenever you have a question or something, just stop the video and make sure that you see the formula and you don't have any questions, and you get back to everything. But with the practice, you get really good at this. These are crucially important subjects in business, and I want to just thank you for watching this video. Have a great time. Thank you.